Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This video uses AI narration to present our original book analysis. Today, we're diving deep into Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation. It's a fascinating look at why anxiety and depression have skyrocketed among young people born after 1995, Gen Z. We're going to break down the key insights in a way that respects your time. And by the end, you'll understand not just what's happening, but why it matters and what we can do about it. So, what makes this generation so different?
Haidt argues that it's all about what he calls the great rewiring of childhood. Think about it. Widespread high-speed internet, the iPhone, hyper-viral social media, all these things exploded in popularity right around the time the oldest Gen Zers hit puberty. Their childhoods were radically different from any generation before.
He actually compares it to growing up on Mars.
Right, it's that different. And one of the biggest changes Haidt points to is how these technologies, especially smartphones and tablets, are acting as experience blockers.
Okay. Explain that. What exactly is an experience blocker?
Well, instead of climbing trees, playing tag, or just hanging out with friends face-to-face. Kids are spending hours each day on these devices, and that time displaces real-world interactions, the kind that are crucial for developing social skills, emotional regulation, and resilience. They're missing out on the messy, unpredictable, but ultimately essential experiences that help us grow.
And it's not just the quantity of time, it's also the quality of the online experience.
Exactly. Social media often encourages shallow connections and a constant focus on self-presentation. It's all about likes and followers, not genuine connection and authenticity.
Which has to be incredibly tough on kids' developing brains.
Absolutely. The adolescent brain is going through a massive rewiring process, and it's expecting to learn and grow through real-world, face-to-face interactions. But that's not the environment we've created for them.
So we've got technology changing the landscape of childhood. But Haidt also talks about another significant shift, the rise of overprotection, and what he calls safetyism.
Right. We're seeing well-intentioned but excessive safety measures limiting children's autonomy and opportunities for risk-taking.
It's the helicopter parent phenomenon.
Yeah.
Taken to a whole new level.
Yes. And while it's natural for parents to want to protect their kids, Haidt argues that this overprotection is backfiring. Kids need some challenges to thrive. Shielding them from all risks actually makes them more fragile in the long run.
Because they don't learn how to assess and manage risk, how to cope with failure, how to bounce back from setbacks. And that makes them more vulnerable to anxiety and depression later on.
Precisely. And the way this all plays out is actually quite different for boys and girls. What strikes you about the specific challenges girls are facing because of social media?
Well, one thing that jumps out is the relentless social comparison. Girls are bombarded with images of perfect bodies, perfect lives, perfect everything. And it's creating immense pressure to conform to these unrealistic standards. It's not just selfies. It's the constant pressure to project an idealized version of themselves online.
And those comparisons can be incredibly damaging to their self-esteem, leading to anxiety, depression, and even eating disorders, especially during adolescence when girls are already so sensitive to social feedback and trying to figure out who they are.
It's like social media is weaponizing those vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And then you add cyberbullying to the mix.
And it becomes even more toxic. Social media provides a platform for relational aggression to spread quickly and anonymously, making it almost impossible to escape.
So we're seeing a sharp rise in anxiety and depression among girls. But Haidt argues that boys are struggling too, just in a different way.
Right. Boys aren't necessarily experiencing the same spike in anxiety, but they've been facing a gradual decline in achievement and engagement for decades. It's a slower burn, but the effects are still significant.
And what's driving that decline?
Haidt suggests boys are increasingly retreating into virtual worlds where they feel more agency. But that comes with its own set of problems. Take video games, for example.
They can be incredibly addictive, leading to social isolation and a disconnect from the real world.
Exactly. And it's not just video games. Exposure to online pornography is another concern, potentially distorting their views on relationships and sexuality and contributing to anxiety and social awkwardness.
I think boys are getting a mixed message. Be strong and successful, but also be sensitive and emotionally expressive. And they're not getting the support to navigate these conflicting demands.
It's a lot to process, for sure. And I know it can all sound pretty bleak. But Haidt doesn't just paint a depressive picture. He also offers some potential solutions, and even a glimmer of hope.
Well, that's good to hear. Before we dive into those solutions, I think we should take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far. Because what Haidt is describing is a fundamental shift in childhood. and it's impacting all of us.
He connects this shift to a loss of what he calls spiritual elevation, those moments of awe, connection, and deeper meaning that help us transcend our everyday worries and connect to something larger than ourselves.
And he argues that technology, with its relentless focus on self-promotion and instant gratification, is making it harder and harder to experience those moments.
He even uses the word sacred, suggesting that we need to rediscover a sense of the sacred, both in our individual lives and as a society.
I think that's a powerful idea. We'll definitely unpack that more when we come back. But for now, let's just sit with that thought for a moment. How can we rediscover the sacred in a world that feels increasingly profane? We'll delve into Haidt's proposed solutions and what each of us can do to create a healthier future for the next generation when we return.
You know, it's interesting how Haidt links this loss of the sacred to the way technology keeps us trapped in our own heads. He talks about the default mode network, the part of our brain that's active when we're not focused on a specific task.
It's that state of mind where we tend to ruminate, worry, get caught up in our own thoughts.
Exactly. And social media feeds that tendency. It's all about me, my posts, my likes, my followers. A constant ego-boosting machine.
Which might feel good temporarily, but doesn't lead to lasting happiness.
Haidt's point is that true happiness and fulfillment come from self-transcendence, from connecting to something beyond ourselves. And that's what's missing in the phone-based life.
We're so plugged in, so distracted, that we've lost touch with those things that truly matter. So how do we break out of this cycle? What can we actually do to create a healthier environment for kids and for ourselves?
Haidt lays out a plan for collective action that involves governments, tech companies, schools, and parents. Let's start with governments. He believes they have a crucial role in setting limits and creating safeguards, especially for children.
Like setting age restrictions on social media.
Precisely. He points to the UK's age-appropriate design code as a model. It requires tech companies to design products with children's well-being in mind.
That's encouraging. It shows that regulation is possible.
And it's not just age restrictions. He suggests things like requiring age verification for online services that could prevent kids from accessing harmful content, or creating accounts without parental consent.
Makes sense. He also talks about encouraging phone-free schools.
Yes. And research shows that when schools ban phones, kids are more engaged, learn better, and are less anxious and distracted.
A win-win for everyone. But what about the real world beyond schools? What can governments do to make it more kid-friendly?
Haidt argues that we need to create more opportunities for kids to play freely and independently. He suggests passing reasonable childhood independence laws, clarifying that it's not neglect for parents to give their kids age-appropriate freedom.
So parents wouldn't be afraid to let their kids walk to school or play outside unsupervised.
Exactly. It's about shifting cultural norms back to a more balanced approach to childhood.
And that includes changing the built environment. More parks, playgrounds, natural spaces where kids can just be kids.
Absolutely. But all of this requires a shift in mindset for parents and society as a whole.
So what about parents? What can they do?
Haidt emphasizes being a gardener, not a carpenter, when it comes to parenting.
Interesting analogy. What does that mean in practice?
It means creating an environment where your kids can thrive, rather than trying to mold them into some specific shape.
So providing resources and support, but letting them grow in their own way.
Yes. And that includes setting limits on screen time, encouraging free play, modeling healthy tech habits yourself, which I know can be challenging.
It can feel like you're swimming upstream when everyone else is giving their kids free rein with technology.
That's why Haidt stresses the importance of collective action. He encourages parents to connect with like-minded parents, forming communities of support.
Like those wait until 8th groups, where parents agree to delay giving their kids smartphones.
Right. Those groups help break the social pressure, making it easier for individual families to make different choices. He also encourages parents to have open conversations with their kids about the risks and benefits of technology.
Arming them with critical thinking skills to navigate the online world safely.
And helping them understand that their worth doesn't depend on likes or followers, but on who they are as individuals.
So fostering resilience, both online and offline.
And that's something parents can do from a young age, encouraging kids to try new things, cope with failure, build a strong sense of self-worth.
Haidt is a big advocate for play, right?
He is. He sees free play as essential for developing social skills, emotional regulation, creativity, and resilience. He wants to see schools bring back recess and create more time for unstructured play.
It's about finding a balance between academics and play, online and offline experiences, remembering that childhood is not just a preparation for adulthood, but a time to be cherished for its own sake.
Exactly. And he believes that if we can create a world where that's possible again, we'll not only be raising happier and healthier kids, but creating a better future for everyone.
That's a vision worth striving for. But we're out of time for this deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from experience blockers to the importance of rediscovering the sacred. What stands out to you as the most important takeaway?
Well, for me, it's that connection between anxiety and the loss of the sacred. We're so focused on achievement, on consumption, on the next dopamine hit from our devices, that we've lost sight of those experiences that connect us to something larger than ourselves.
And those experiences are crucial, not just for happiness, but for our mental health. Haidt makes a compelling case that we need to find ways to rediscover the sacred, both individually and collectively.
He's not necessarily advocating for organized religion, but for the idea that we need to create spaces and rituals that foster a sense of awe, connection, and purpose.
Spending time in nature, cultivating wonder, engaging in practices that promote self-reflection, those are all things we can do individually.
And collectively, we can support organizations and initiatives that are working to create a healthier, more humane world.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together. The challenges Haidt outlines in The Anxious Generation aren't just impacting young people. They're impacting all of us.
It's a call to action, not just for parents and educators, but for everyone who cares about the future of our society.
And it starts with recognizing the power of technology, both for good and for ill. We need to use it wisely and intentionally, especially when it comes to children.
It's about finding that balance between the virtual and the real, between individual freedom and collective responsibility.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. If you want to explore these ideas further, I highly recommend checking out The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. It's a thought-provoking and ultimately hopeful book that offers a roadmap for creating a better future for young people, and for all of us. You can find a link to purchase the book in the description below.
It's a book that will challenge your assumptions, expand your perspective, and inspire you to take action.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe to Mindful Moments for more insightful explorations of books that matter. We'll keep bringing you the key takeaways, helping you nourish your mind on the go. Until next time.